Good morning, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing Theatrhythm Final Barline for the Nintendo Switch. I was a huge fan of the two Theatrhythm games on the 3DS, but I thought that the series would be done after Curtain Call because, well, it was called Curtain Call. I thought that that meant, it's over, take a bow. But apparently I misunderstood the use of that phrase because there have since been two more games in the Theatrhythm series. Theatrhythm Final Fantasy All-Star Carnival, and then this game. What I really liked about the Theatrhythm games was that even though I wasn't a Final Fantasy fan, I still liked the idea of having a portable soundtrack of several great and sometimes several annoying Final Fantasy tunes, so that I didn't have to just look them up on YouTube. I could just carry my 3DS around and start listening to epic songs wherever I went. Thanks to the portability of the Switch, that is still a factor had I not rented this game. I'm also a die-hard rhythm game fan. One time I spent $10 on a DDR machine at an arcade, and I was so wiped out that the arcade attendants had to take me aside, give me a drink of water, and say, "We appreciate your patronage, but you also have to play DDR in moderation because that's a very physically demanding game." So all this game really needed to say is, hey, it's another rhythm game, and it has orchestra pieces. That was enough for me. Not even a Final Fantasy fan. I just said I want good music to be able to play whenever I want. So the premise of Theatrhythm is that you have a variety of triggers that are flying to the right side of the screen. In the case of the event stages, toward the bottom, and you have to press the A button or the control sticks at the proper timing and also release them at the proper timing. Sometimes you just have to tap the button, sometimes you have to hold it, sometimes you have to hold it and move the control stick, and sometimes there will be triggers where you'll just have to flick the control stick in the right direction. In the field versions of the songs, sometimes you'll even have to hold down the A button and move the control stick along the path that's illustrated for you. It's a bit hard to explain, especially because I'm biased in these music selections and I wanted to pick the most epic pieces and they were all battle tunes, but you'll be glad to know that if all the control stick antics are a bit too much, or if you're, for example, having problems with drift, or you hate the Joy-Con controllers like yours truly, this game introduces Simple Style, where you can play all of the songs using only the A button. All you have to do is press the A button at the time that the game demands you. If there are slide triggers, you don't have to move the control stick in the right direction. All you have to do is hold down the button long enough. You don't even have to press simultaneous triggers. Normally you'd have to press two separate face buttons or shoulder buttons when these simultaneous triggers happen, but as long as you press one button on one trigger at the right time, the game will count it and will do all of the multitasking for you. This really worked for me because my left control stick is really trash. It basically is kind of an all or nothing kind of thing, so that made it really hard to do the slide triggers, so I'm really glad that this option is available. There are three different modes when you're playing the songs: field, battle, and event. When you're on the field, your characters will walk to the left and will occasionally encounter enemies to battle. And basically the only difference between this and the battle is that there aren't four set tracks, but rather when you get to slide triggers, you'll kind of go all over the place, up and down in a very hilly fashion. In battle mode, the characters just stand there and fight an onslaught of enemies as they keep coming at you, but the four lanes are readily visible, and the slide triggers don't have any directional inputs except at the very end. So everything is all in a straight line, and the songs tend to have more of an epic feel because, they're battles. That's what they're supposed to do. Finally, event songs are where the triggers come from the top to the bottom, so that can be a bit of a learning curve. And you'll watch a movie of whatever Final Fantasy game you happened to be playing. And I am really glad that they revamped these event mode scenes because they were really annoying in the 3DS games because you would be going in like a loop and it would be really hard to tell which direction to push the circle pad. But now, since everything is coming from top to bottom, it's like the battle stages, except from a different direction. So again, everything is in a straight line, so you shouldn't have to be disoriented. One problem I have with these event scenes is that the early Final Fantasy games still, after all these games, still haven't been translated into English. Thankfully, that's really only a problem for the NES and Super NES titles, as once you get to the later games, they don't really have a lot of gameplay. It's just basically entirely cutscenes, because Square Enix games are known for having better cutscenes than the gameplay itself. Speaking of which, Theatrhythm Final Barline is not a good-looking game. It still maintains the chibi art style of the previous games, but even if you say that that's a stylistic choice, the backgrounds are for the most part really plain, and the enemy designs look way too cute to actually take them seriously. The only time where the game actually looks magnificent is in the event scenes, which honestly blows my mind that some of these really taxing games are able to get their event scenes working on the Switch's underpowered machine. Like, even Final Fantasy VII Remake has some cutscenes in there, which still hasn't come to the Switch, presumably because it's too powerful of a game. But otherwise, I do think that that's a problem with Square Enix games in general, specifically their rhythm games, is that they prioritize having a whole bunch of songs, but then they downplay the graphics, as I had the same problem with Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, and that's persisted here. Now, there's not a whole lot of modes to choose from in Theatrhythm Final Barline. I think the 3DS games tried to do that because the main story mode was too short, but this game just wants you to jump straight to the action. There isn't even a story this time around. You're given series quests, which will take you through one particular game or series of games at a time, and you'll go down a linear flowchart of sorts, where you'll play the songs in, for the most part, relatively chronological order. Sometimes there will be boss battles, which will be indicated by purple fog around the space, which probably means you have to lower the difficulty because it's a significant difficulty spike. And it's pretty straightforward. You just play the songs in order. Sometimes you'll have additional conditions that usually have roughly to do with whatever was going on in the game, such as if you're playing a track where the characters are riding chocobos, the triggers will come by really fast to represent the speed of the chocobos. But then you'll also have missions that you'll have to do, such as getting a perfect chain of all the triggers or getting a certain amount of points. Most of these amounted to just getting good, but the game, just like the previous Theatrhythm games, tries to introduce RPG mechanics into the songs where the characters level up and they have different skills that they can use. And overall, I found these to be a bit confusing and cumbersome, as you have to go into an entirely separate menu to customize your party for every individual song, which got really annoying, and there's a lot to choose from. Now, you could just choose Optimize, but I wish there was a way that the game would make it more clear how it is that you're fulfilling the objectives. Sometimes it'll say, like, defeat the boss within 30 seconds, but how are you supposed to figure that out in the heat of a song? It was really hard to see the action between the characters and the enemies because you only have so much peripheral vision, and your central vision is probably going to be focused on hitting the notes, so you can't really ogle at all of the non-existent eye candy. That being said, I do really appreciate the amount of stuff this game packs in. You can unlock different airships to drop you off during the field stages, different outfits for your Moogle companion to wear, different characters, different cards that have like scenes and illustrations of the game that you can look at. Albeit the picture quality isn't terrific, you can't really zoom in, but it's still nice to have memorabilia. One thing that I think is a bit disappointing is that after you've reached a certain point in each game, you'll find a treasure chest. Now, normally people get excited when they see treasure chests, because they say, ooh, let's see what kind of goodie we get. But with the exception of the final series that you play, you always just get a key that'll allow you to unlock another Final Fantasy game, so it's a bit of a letdown. And when you finally do get to the last Final Fantasy game and open the last treasure chest, then all you get are just a bunch of items. And these items stack up really quickly, which I think is one of the biggest problems with the unlockable system in this game, is that most of the rewards for doing the challenges are very unbalanced. None of the rewards feel like stuff I'd want to go out of my way for. So I felt like, hey, I'm just not going to do the challenges. And I found that that definitely helped my enjoyment of the game, as you don't really need to do a whole lot of extra quests to unlock the songs. If you want more, you will have to shell over money for the DLC. However, the DLC fixed one of the biggest issues I had with the original Theatrhythm games. And that's that when you went into the menu to buy the songs, because on the 3DS you weren't taken directly to the eShop, you would buy them within the game itself. Each song was priced for $1, so there were no bundles, there were no packages, and you also couldn't get a preview of the song before you bought it. Thankfully, you'll have an option for Moogle News, and when a song pack has been announced, because yes, they're actually in packs this time, you'll get a chance to preview the songs before you buy it. I especially love the fact that The World Ends With You has its own pack, and there's 5 songs instead of just 2, so that's another really big benefit. No Neo The World Ends With You as far as I know, but still, World Ends With You has some amazing music. And I think it's great that the Theatrhythm Final Fantasy games are willing to extend into other Square Enix titles as well. I do think it's unfortunate that some of the songs that were freebies in the original games are now locked behind a paywall, such as Xanarkand and the Dissidia Final Fantasy version of One Winged Angel. But the songs that are in the base game are still, for the most part, amazing. There's like 385 of them, and the song list goes to like over 400 if you get all of the DLC. I didn't get any of the DLC because it wasn't available at the time of this recording, and I didn't want to just put it off to wait for a couple more songs. I figure they're just songs. I already know how the base game works, and I played all of the base game songs, so I'd like to think that that's more than enough experience to judge the game. Apart from that, really the only other modes are being able to view your collectibles and songs in the museum. There are some multiplayer options, but I wasn't able to test that. And once you have seen the credits, then you have the option to do an endless run, where you just try to beat as many songs as possible before you get a game over. Theatrhythm Final Barline is a rhythm game, and it's probably going to get annoying to you if you don't like that genre of music. However, if you can stomach the rhythm aspects of it, just like binge the lowest difficulty if you want, it is a really great way to have an epic collection of Final Fantasy music on your Switch to be able to play whenever you want, even if you don't have a YouTube connection. I don't necessarily think you'll want to pay full price if you don't like all of the songs, but if you're just a die-hard Final Fantasy fan and want everything, then I do think $50 probably is worth it for the content, just not necessarily for the graphics. Or just rent it like me if you're not a huge fan of your Switch being an iPod, and then you can just have fun with your rhythm and then listen to the songs on YouTube if you're really desperate to hear them again. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Let me know down in the comments if I missed anything and what you thought about the video. Special thanks to my patrons Matthew Rakowski and Spoonghost for supporting me financially. The link will be in the description if you would also like to support me. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!